Welcome to Real Estate Hustlers Podcast. I'm your host, Josh Appleman. Today we're joined with Alexia Tuttle. Alexia is an entrepreneur and multifamily operator, transforming apartment complexes into Tuttle Equity. She owns Tuttle Nutrition and supports veterans, blending businesses with community impact. Alexia, we appreciate you coming on the show. If you could let the listeners know a little bit more about yourself.
Yeah, thanks for having me. I'm a weirdo at heart. I think I'm known to be the interesting person in my groups, but basically I've been self-employed for over a decade or about a decade now. Tuttle Nutrition, worldwide nutrition coaches, me and my husband. We've been doing that from home for a very long time. So it's kind of my bread and butter. And I was just like, you know what? This is about 2.5 years ago. I'm like, you want to like not be a slave to our computer for the rest of our life with like a service-based business? And he's like, yeah, I'm with you. I'm like, I want to buy apartments. He's like, okay. So like his risk level's here, mine's here. So we had to kind of meet here, right? He's like, all right, don't touch this account. So I moved it into a CD with the bank because I was like, I'll build a relationship with them. Make sure we save this much a month. Update me with all this stuff. Because I do all the financials, which I love to do, but he also loves to just be informed. So I have to make sure, that balance works. But so we started doing that, had a few fumbles in the beginning, which I'll kind of explain a little bit of. Because I've been through the ringer a bit with this business. We also have a water enhancer product called Drink More. That's like a flavored water enhancer with minerals. My husband's like the formulator because he's a dietitian and face of that company. So he mainly deals with that. I mainly deal with Tuttle Equity, and then we both pretty much do Tuttle Nutrition. But I'm also a board member of the Cloud Dancer Scholarship. We help veterans who want to pursue careers in aviation with a mental health component with vets. But I do a lot of veteran work in general. Just hosted a Veterans in Real Estate Summit, actually, which was really, really fun. I'm not a vet, I'm a patriot, but it's just kind of one of my little side passions. Oh, I also have 6 dogs and no kids. So
You got a lot going on. That's so let's get with multifamily. So you made a decision to learn about the industry, inform your spouse if that's the direction you want to take things. There's always a learning curve, but that's called sharpening the axe. And in the industry, you have to draw back like a bow and arrow to spring forward. So tell us how your journey went from learning how apartments work and the nuances in the business to finally getting your portfolio to 96 units here.
Yeah, I mean, it was definitely pretty tough, but I think what really helped was being self-employed and understanding how to just make stuff happen from the get-go. I'm pretty good at ignoring how I feel if I'm, imposter syndrome, or if you're feeling like, you shouldn't do it, or that those nerves, right? But as long as I feel like I have a sense of control on what's happening, I feel better. So I actually first started a week after I talked to him about it. I went to like a guru based type of conference. And that first year, I think I went to at least 8, 9, 10 of them, something like that. Mostly guru focused. The best ones are like Old Capital because you meet everybody at those. Definitely one of the better ones here in Dallas. And sorry, I have something in my eye. But anyways, so I went to that conference, met a lot of good people, kept going to all these different ones. Noticed I was probably one of the only females, which is kind of funny. And I was like, okay, this is interesting. But I was just kind of completely myself. And I think that's how I end up realizing I'm really good at the networking aspect and talking to people. And it was just pretty easy for me with that. But I really thought I'd be better at the asset management role. So, and that was in the beginning. You kind of don't know what you're going to fall into. Like you have to learn every single aspect and then figure out what you're going to be 80-20 on, right? They say 80% you're going to master on one of the topics, then 20% you have to know, but you assign to your team in that sense. And I think that's actually kind of important. So I learned underwriting for a solid 8 months prior to like actually jumping in. And those 8 months, I did walk deals. My first deal, I walked in heels and like full ass. I was like, I'm never doing this again. I'm a jean girl and I'm just going to be myself. So don't do that. But I realized you have to know what you don't know, right? I grew up in apartments, dirt poor. I don't know a water heater or a roof is good. I'm like, shit. I just know how to make things happen or, progress, right? So I started inviting a guy to walk them with me. It was like, he's a construction guy. Please tell me what I don't know. So I think a big part of this too, as you're learning, is you're going to resonate with certain aspects of this business more than others. And I think that's where you're going to lean on it. And then you're going to have to rely on other people for the rest, which is very, very difficult when you're a control freak like myself. I can be reasoned with, but that's just who I am. But yeah, so I went to that. I had 2 deals under contract by that fall. So and that was a total of 100 units, one in North Carolina, one in North Georgia. And those deals, long story short, we were assuming a Freddie loan, which I was kind of the main person in organizing all those, which definitely made me realize how much of a pain in the ass it is to assume a Freddie loan. Besides the point, but you guys can understand that aspect. We had a lot
You
of
got to
GPs.
qualify. They go through the
Yeah.
experience and all
Oh
the
my
due
gosh,
diligence
yeah.
for sure.
Yeah, and it's just like they just go through hoops. You have to redo forms constantly, and you have to stay organized somehow. So I had to create a system with that. I love creating systems and efficiencies, and or fixing the efficiencies. And what happened was I trusted and didn't verify those partners, and the deals eventually end up falling through. I pulled my investors out last second because I was like, something's not equaling. I'm going to listen to my gut, and I was like, I'm done. So we lost our earnest money on that deal because the guy was kind of signing it away without us actually realizing it, and nothing we can do at that point. Uh, that was a tough one. What were you
The
gonna say?
the broker was assigning the deal away, or what?
No, so one of the main GPs that was in contact with everybody, like doing the deal negotiations, was doing that. And then we didn't realize, and then we assigned, what he signed, we assigned it to the LLC, which we just signed. And then after that, we recognized it. And that's when you lose your money. So you're like, shit. So
Wow.
like we did have an email where we're like, hey, we'll all be liable for the funds, or the risk capital involved in the deal. Everybody confirm. So we had it in an email confirm. But like, I would suggest actually having a contract, or do what I do now and hire an ex FBI PI agent, private investigator, who basically does my vetting a lot with people. And then I also do a bit more myself now. But you live and you learn on that people, because again, or that concept, because it is a people business. You have to trust people, and you're dealing with people who trust you with their money and your own money. And at that point, I was like, oh, okay, I need be a bit more careful, or at least listen to my gut a bit more and do the due diligence aspect of it. Not just on the deal, but on the people. So,
Yeah. Yeah. That's
that was the
there's
first
different
experience.
circles for sure. But yeah, trust but verify is it's crucial. You're dealing with large amounts of money and a lot of trust, and trust is built on performance.
Yeah, but in the beginning, you're a beginner, you think people know more than they do.
Oh, for
So,
sure. Yeah.
and if you get excited, I joined at a time that was really rough. You get excited, oh my God, this deal works. Like, that's cool. Let's go for it. But then, what I do now, if it's a deal, like right now I'm working on a development deal. So I usually do value add multifamily, but I'm working on a development deal, build to sell in Austin. And that's definitely out of my wheelhouse. It's more in a gray area. So I have sent it so far to two different people, one, an who also kind of buys himself, and then another one, a multifamily guy who does development. I was like, hey guys, like, review it, tear it apart. We're gonna have a meeting with the team, and I did put the team together. So, my buddies found it, and then I kind of added people to the team that I felt like would fit. Um, but basically, I was just like, tear this deal apart. Let's go through it. I want to know your take to see what we're missing, what we're overlooking. Because again, if you don't know something, find the person that you definitely can trust that have done it to review it. And most people will. Like, they want to see good people do good things. And I offer to pay for their time too, because I'm not a jackass, and I do believe time is valuable. So I'm like, let me pay for your time, or in general, let me provide value to you somehow down the line, or what kind of connections you need to make, or how can I help you. And I think that's when you find more of the good people doing the things. You know what I
Yeah.
mean?
Yeah, and there's an alignment of interest on the GP front, where everyone brings in those key elements, things that the project needs in order to be successful. And finding those key partners is the tough part, and then making sure that they've got a track record that isn't just on paper, and you can
Yeah.
verify it.
Like,
Um,
I'll trust people that are newer, as long as, in general, they have a background that makes sense. Their values align, their integrity is there. Because again, this is a long-term game. This is not a short-term one deal thing where, oh, I screwed over my investors, whatever. Like, no, that's not how this works. Your reputation's more than one deal. And I do believe, like, now I have these like two rules. I mean, there's a few more, but mainly they can't like need the money from the deal. One, two, they also uh well, need to be fully invested. But in general, if what we bare minimum have told the investors that they get is what they get, if that means we don't take our cut, so be it. So like, I do believe in the long-term play of apartment investing versus it being cutthroat, stepping over people. It's just not how you do business in general.
Yeah, no, there's definitely your ethics and integrity for sure. That's it's got to be in alignment.
Hmm.
When did you find your first deal, and how did you come across it? How did you structure it? So you've got 96 units now. So tell us about your first deal.
Well, I mean, I had those deals go all the way through and then, backed out. So those are technically my firsts, but not fully done. Um, the 20 unit was my first. That one was just found because I started a monthly commercial real estate meetup. Like my strong suits are building communities and networking and doing that. And I was like, you know what? There's not something in Fort Worth. Everything's on the Dallas side. Let me make something happen in Fort Worth. And I partnered with a broker and another GP. Now that other GP is the one that is my second biggest mistake. And that's a fun story. And $20,000 of legal fees later, we are having him buy me and my buddy out of the 20 unit deal because he kind of screwed us over in it. Long story short, basically, he's the reason why I hire a PI now because he lied about everything. And I am like kind of an anti slumlord in a sense where I do believe you can run an apartment lean but not be an asshole, which some people are not like that. And I'm working with the city a lot at this point too. Don't trust government, but the city does want better people buying. So right, so I'm working with them to buy more now too. But that deal, I already knew I didn't want any of my investors in it because I didn't fully trust this guy, but I stayed in it because of my buddy, who was also had all the risk capital in there and everything like that. I was like, yeah, I'll stay in it because two's better than one, and we can possibly make this deal actually work. I'll do sweat equity. I'm not doing anything because again, I didn't trust him. I'm not putting any of my people near him. And it turned out to be true. He's kind of a Ponzi scheme guy, borrows from someone to pay somebody else off. And through this whole ordeal, after we closed, I just found out so much more. And then I had people contacting me that are really high up in this business, like, oh, he screwed me over too. He screwed me over too. I'm like, oh my God. And we all became friends. Because if you're the same guy screws you over, you become friends. Um,
What
it's
a
kind of interesting.
terrible run in with people.
Yeah, and it's funny because I usually am such a good read on them, but the first, you get caught up in sometimes certain things, and now I never have those run-ins anymore because I know better, and now I actually know the good teams, the good people that are in the DFW area in general. But yeah, and I just knew it. I just wanted to be there for my buddy, who I was just like, you know what, like I got you. Um, and
Well, and,
we,
there's gurus in the business that seek novice investors and seek
yeah.
the ill-informed people and they prey on them. So there's definitely the sharks out there that are just
Yeah.
looking for the newbies to capitalize on them. So it's
Yeah, I
unfortunate. It's
was
the way it
fighting
is.
in a way. He's not a guru by any chance, but he's a smooth talker. And it's funny because as soon as I found out his true colors at my meetups, I hired a cop, and I was like, "Don't let this guy in." I was like making sure, like, don't let anybody do business with him, And I think that I've been in it a few years now. Like, a lot of people are finding out the good people, and we're all kind of mingling. Not really heavy on rumors, but you talk to the person that it happened to, and you kind of get the true stories, and then you kind of just know who to stay away from and who you should probably build a relationship with. And I think we're in a good spot now where I pretty much can have a good understanding of who's who in the industry in a way. But yeah, the 76 unit I just closed on as well. That's with a really great team. They don't care to be like your big name owner operators. They just really care about, doing the right thing. Like they suck at social media, which is hilarious because I think that's kind of good. They have humility. I kind of was able to, yeah, I rose money for it, but I also am asset management aspect of it. So I'm able to have, hands-on approach a bit, which is fun, learning a lot more from them and how they run deals. And I, went to their other deals that are local. I, did really good due diligence with them. And just solid people that you get along with, that you share values with. You know what I
So
mean? That you feel.
76 units. How do you all find it? Tell us about the deal.
It was a seller. So I actually, before that one, I found this deal up in Denton, I believe it was, or Decatur. I get confused with those two. Don't ask me. It's a thing. Uh, I'm not from Texas originally, by the way, so I still get confused with towns. So I found a deal with that. And I was like, hey, do you want to possibly be on this one with me? And it was that guy who I wanted him to KP on that deal. And then I was working on another 43 unit in Fort Worth as well. And he knew, we went to lunch. He knew how I worked, and he really wanted to do a deal with me. But those deals we got outbid and they just didn't go through. So he found this one and he's like, hey, you've been trying to work with me. I definitely think that we should work together. You want to join me on this deal? I was like, sure. So basically it was through his connection of knowing the owner. All right. And the owner's like a guy in his 80s from California who basically it's an operational play, basically not paying attention to it, or he's just trusting the wrong people because maintenance wise, the deal looks good, but operations wise, it was in the dumps. It was 70% occupied when all the comps were over 90. It makes no sense. So I think he makes more. He's holding the note. So it's seller finance 5.5%. He makes more from our payment than he did on the property owning it.
Seller finance. So tell us how that deal was structured, what the terms are.
Simple, 5.5 for 5 years, seller financed. But we also, with our investors, 70-30 split. I don't really do pref much, if at all, to be honest, if any of the ways. I like things really simple, especially because a lot of my investors are first time. If I make them way too complicated, it's just not going to work out. And what I do like is because pref, people don't realize pref doesn't incentivize the GPs much, at least for the first few years, because if it's a deal, it's like a struggling deal, they're not going to get paid for so many years. So like, it's not like I want to say like, give it all to the GPs, but I do think just a balanced play and like that's simple makes the most sense. You get really sophisticated investors that are just like, oh, you should do this, that. I'm like, no, I'm good. Like, we're just going to keep it simple, buddy. I'm like, you could find a deal with that, but I'm not doing it.
Well, there's every deal has its nuances too. I mean, if you're going in to value add and you have an investor come in and putting 100 grand in, and you don't see the stabilized cash flows out until 12 months, I mean, is what they're going to put in. Is there an accruing factor in there?
And we're not giving out anything until 12 months in because we have to restabilize the property.
Yeah.
So it does make sense on that play. I think a lot of people right now are adding pref because it really pushes up the cash on cash percentage a bit, makes it a little bit more appetizing for some of their investors, which I get. And if you can pull that off, go for it. But I just think just my base of investors, it just really makes sense to keep things simple. I'm not opposed to any other structure, but that's really what's been working for me. 70-30, 80-20. Basic structure.
You just have to find the right deal and patient capital. I mean, that's being very patient, 12 months, and then the returns start coming. But no, I think it's good. It just the deal has to fit. On the seller finance component, did you all bring 25% of the equity? Did it bring 50% equity? What was the seller? What were they wanting?
25.
Okay, all right, that's it.
Yeah,
and then
so
what was the purchase price?
Not gonna say, just because it's over 8 million.
Okay.
I was advised not to, I guess, because of Texas. I don't know. I have to look more into those rules because I was just like, okay, I just will listen to the rest of the GP team at this point. But basically, we had to raise about 3 million, 3.2. We had pretty big reserves, I would say, because we have we need a big budget because we're renovating a lot of the units. The units have not been really renovated at all.
And that was included in the raise?
Yes, correct.
Okay,
so we had about 750, 800 in reserves plus CapEx budget all in one. And then we put our taxes in a separate CD that comes out right before we have to pay the taxes. So that's how we did the tax aspect of it. Again, Texas, you have to always fight for it too. But yeah, we had a big budget on that. Right now, I'm working on rebranding the property. Hopefully by the end of quarter four, we'll have the new name up, the new designs starting, the painting starting, just to, spruce up the property a bit. We're not painting the red brick, it's red brick. New shutters, new trim. They have really nice carports that you'd see in Class A's, and they're not even charging for them and things like that. I'm like, interesting.
Nice.
But yeah, we're kind of finalizing a lot of the design aspects.
Did you get third party or are you all
no, so
it's
in-house property management. The team that I'm with, Daniel Twito and Tanga, they have a good in-house property management system going. It's definitely I think the toughest part is finding the right people for the right jobs. We're having a really tough time finding maintenance people that will do what they say and show up and get it done. I think that a lot of people have that issue. They're like, oh, just pay them well. I'm like, we're paying them well. I don't know. I think it's just finding the right person for that job, which is tough. But again, I think we're figuring that one out. And then he's also with the in-house property management. We have the new property manager there, because beforehand, the old owner barely had anyone at the property, mind you. This is why it wasn't getting leased up at all. And we just hired like a regional director to oversee the individual property managers. And I only have one deal with this team. We're working on another one. But they have a lot of deals in the pipe. I'm like, right now, I think I have more deals than I have funds. That's like my issue,
I
which
think
is like
that's
a lot of people's
everyone's.
issue.
Yeah, I mean, you can certainly go out shopping, and then you gotta play the game. Constantly need to
Hmm.
deploy
But like,
capital.
would you rather be in a bunch of deals minusculely or like in a bigger part? You know what I mean? Like, yeah, I could be part of this 200 unit that you're doing right now, but I just did a deal and then I have this other development deal going on. It's like, it's almost like, yeah, it'd be great to be in all these deals, but at this point, I just want to make sure that I'm making the right decisions and not trying to grow too fast. Like with Tuttle Nutrition, I just grew as it naturally grew with the business, and we grew like 250% a year the first 5 years. And I'm like, okay, just riding the wave, right?
Yeah, yeah. I think it just depends on your vision. You got to write it down, see where you want to be in the 3 and the 5, and then of course your capacity and how you can leverage your abilities to make sure that
Well,
keeps
my vision's
cascading
pretty
out.
high. My vision, because of where I want to be, it's pretty up there. But again, it's like I don't want to just jump into everything, every opportunity, because
Yeah, you can't
I
do that.
will, but it just doesn't make sense for, I don't know, what the pace that I'm trying to go.
Yeah, you gotta. I mean, well, that's real estate. You got to be extremely patient. Make sure that it's right deals, because you buy one wrong deal and it can definitely set you back for sure. But
Yeah, I
if
agree
you're
with that.
truly the owner, the operator, and you're able to put the pedal to the metal and make it perform, that's the difference. Besides relying on third party operations in front of you, and you're hoping that they would do what you would do. So that there is a huge difference there.
And that's why
Um,
I think people are having issues with property management third parties, because like when you get under 70 units, you have a really tough time with them, because usually they're growing companies or they're ones that have been doing more single homes that are trying to get into multifamily. So there is a bunch of that. Plus, the one I hired on the other property, I was just finding all these fees that just didn't make any sense. Like, I really like when things are really transparent and they reconcile. And I'm like, why are we doing this fee for everybody? This makes no sense. Like, it just, that's the tough part, I think.
Yeah, and it's another business that has to stay in business at the property's expense. So if you're
It's hard to
vertically
make it
integrated,
profitable.
you're renovating, you're managing, and you're managing your own properties, you can distribute that cost through multiple properties and become lean and efficient. It's just another way of I think growing out your portfolio, growing as a business, just synonymously. But so tell us about some of the things that we know you've learned from people mistakes. What are some of the other things you would have done differently now that you've closed this property?
Uh, Probably would have done better with my CRM from the beginning. You meet so many people so quick. And I had like a really basic way of doing things, and then it just seemed a little overwhelming. I was like, and then I did an Excel sheet, but I would make sure that you write like where you met them, notes about them. Oh, they have 2 kids in college. Oh, they like to invest in Kansas City. Like those things that just like remember. And then because now I have Smart Syndicator, which is like a go high level type form. Brandon Wong's my friend, he's a veteran buddy who had kind of created that, and it's for syndicators in a sense, but it's so much more helpful because of all the businesses and all I do. I can tag people a certain way. The marketing, the campaign aspect of it is really nice. But I would say a better CRM process in the beginning. You go to a conference, you get all their cards or their virtual cards, maybe screenshot if you save them, because you're never going to look back at it. And then when you get home, input everybody right away because you're going to forget, right? Because this is a people business, and that way you can kind of understand that. And then I would be a bit more picky with the people I do business with, one. Two, with the conferences I go to. So after that first year, I kind of learned which ones probably are more worth it. I can find positivity in everything I do, like a positive aspect. Oh, I met some good people here, or that conference was horrible, but at least I met these people or had a good experience, whatever. You can find that anywhere. But I think just managing your time more efficiently on what makes the most sense for what you're trying to do. And then I did do a lot with like Facebook groups, like meetups, local meetups and stuff. I think you meet good people that way. Everyone's like, I wouldn't go the guru route, which is what I did initially. So I don't think you need to do that. I think I did more just by myself and learning from people and talking to people than I did learn from the guru arena.
Yeah, you
right?
definitely learn by getting out there and doing it too. Just taking action and learning on the first-hand approach. Uh,
Mm-hmm.
okay, so for a beginner real estate investor that may be listening, what would you recommend that they how would they start to learn how real estate investing works and how to possibly syndicate real estate?
I mean, I do think a few books probably would be make sense. Like if you can find like those beginner syndication books. I mean, you have to get past the fluff if it's a book, because the motivational, like if you're self-motivated, you're just going to get annoyed by that kind of stuff like me. So, and not to toot my own horn, but like, I still will read it and I'll just be like, okay. But I think noting the framework of how syndications work is huge. Keeping, up to date with just how the process works, so you're not, going in blind. I think a lot of people I know that are newer can jump in and just start walking deals without even knowing how a process of buying a multifamily value add works. And I see that more and more. Just read a few of the books. It could be guru book, it's fine. But like as long as you know the process of who you need to meet, the process of the capex, the budgeting, pre-close, post-close, how to manage the property, how to actually asset manage. Because I think the missing link is people have property management, but they're not asset managing. So I think that's a missing link. But yeah, read a few books, go to a few conferences locally. You don't have to spend a bunch of money. Go to a few local meetups, find them on Facebook groups, find them on Meetup, find them on Eventbrite, and then just start meeting those people and having those conversations.
Very cool. Do you have any specific books to recommend?
I mean, Brandon Turner's stuff is pretty good. Um, I mean, I don't mind Michael Blanc's real estate investing. I think that does kind of show the framework, but again, he is a guru. But I think that book does kind of give you the basics of how it works. But that I would just start with those simple books, then kind of branch from there. But again, I'm not a huge book person when it comes to these things. So that's just what I did. And then I just jumped to the conferences and then learned from there.
Okay, cool. If somebody wants to reach out, learn more about yourself, possibly invest alongside with you, how can they reach out?
Well, because of all my bullshit, because I'm crazy and can't be bored, TuttleBrands.com is like a landing page of all my stuff. So you can go there. But TuttleEquity.com, I'm Alexia Tuttle. I'm pretty much Facebook, Instagram, everything you can find. But yeah, it's pretty easy to find me. And there's only like one Alexia, I think, in Fort Worth, or Alexia Tuttle in Fort Worth at this point. So
very cool. Well, sounds like you've got a long journey ahead of you, and definitely look forward to following you. And congratulations to your success so far. So very cool stuff, and definitely appreciate the nuggets you've given away.
yeah, I appreciate it. I didn't even make any horrible jokes that will get you canceled. You're welcome.